Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube channel. My name is Mike. I'm continuing my 2014 NFL Playoff previews, and this video is for the Divisional Round matchup between the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks. This game will take place in Seattle, who comes in with a record of 13-3, winners of the NFC West, and also have home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. And the Saints, all right, coming in at 12-5 if you count their wild card win last week versus the Eagles on the road. Went into Lincoln Financial Field in a close one and beat the Eagles 26-24. And, if you watch my recap of that Saints-Eagles game, what caught me by surprise was the way the Saints won. And I think a lot of the things that they did against the Eagles, they absolutely have to do against the Seahawks to even have a chance to win this game late. And most notably, running the football. They ran for 185 yards, against the Eagles last week. They ran for only about 45 yards against the Seahawks in Week 13 when they went up to Seattle. That's something that has to improve. To be one-dimensional against the Seattle defense puts you in a very, very vulnerable situation as an offense, especially in that stadium with all the noise, with how ball-hawking that secondary and linebacking core are, not to mention the deep pass rush they have coming at you. You need to truly make them honor two different things as an offense, the ability to pass and the ability to run. And I think that's going to be key for the Saints. Establishing the run so you can open up the play-action pass, open up the deep play-action pass, and also give your defense a little bit of a break. This is a Saints defense that they came up with, I think, with a heck of an effort last week, but they're very thin right now. They've been suffering a lot of injuries, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. I think this is the game where that Kenny Vaccaro injury may really hurt them. But in general, when you have a thin defense, especially in that back end, it's important that your offense at times, takes some time off the clock, gives you some time to rest, especially when you're going to be playing against a Seattle team this week that, is very, very physical. They're going to come out and try to do with the Saints what the Saints did to the Eagles last week. Get physical at the point of attack and push them around. And that wears on a defense. So I think the longer the Saints can develop a steady running game, the longer they can stay in the game. And obviously, the biggest factor for the Saints is that Drew Brees is on point. And he didn't have the best game against Seattle the first time around, which is well documented. You have to remember in that game, it was 17-0 at the end of the first quarter. After you had that strip sack and the Michael Bennett return for a touchdown there in the first quarter, you felt things starting to snowball on the Saints. That's why I think the running game is important for them to stabilize things early. Get that crowd. I know it's very hard to control that crowd. I'm not saying they're going to, stop cheering if the Saints go up 7-0, but do something to sort of quell that crowd and stabilize the game early. That Saints defense against Seattle's offense. Look, Seattle in the first game, especially Marshawn Lynch, had trouble running the football. I think it was 16 carries for 45 yards. What killed the Saints defense in that game was Russell Wilson all the way around. Whether it was Russell Wilson threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and no picks, he ran for about 45 yards in that game as well. So it was a weird case where, they controlled Marshawn Lynch but couldn't really contain Russell Wilson. And, I worry without being able to bring a guy like Vaccaro up into the box to play against the run, how do they react to that smash mouth, aggressive style running game that the Seahawks are going to feature, especially after a bye week and especially now that they have their full complement of offensive linemen ready to go, obviously with the biggest factor in that being Marshawn Lynch. And, the Saints defense, again, last week versus the Eagles did a very good job against the run. Stopping the run and running the ball themselves, I think crucial, especially given the circumstance of going up to a place where everything else is going to be against you, whether it's the crowd noise, but more on top of that, a very deep and talented Seahawks roster. I worry about, the Saints hanging early and then over the course of the game with the depth the Seahawks have, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, with the way they're going to be running the ball aggressively. I worry that's going to sort of wear on the Saints and wear them down. For the Seahawks defense, you look at the Seahawks defense and you think, wow, this is like an impenetrable unit. One spot I'd be wary of is the fact that K.J. Wright in the first game pretty much shadowed Jimmy Graham the entire game. Held Jimmy Graham to 3 catches for 42 yards. K.J. Wright, it looks all signs point towards him not playing this week. So how do they handle Jimmy Graham? I think he's going to be crucial. And the fact that the guy they had shadowing him is not playing, to me, it becomes even more of a concern. And obviously, you always have to worry about a Darren Sproles as an X factor. But again, for the Saints, running the football, setting up Drew Brees in favorable down and distances so he can do his thing. And lastly, Russell Wilson had a great game. The first time these two teams met. The dual threat quarterback is a problem for a lot of defenses, but especially a guy in Wilson who's always looking to pass and will run when it's there. It's a big difference. He goes through his progressions. He takes the run when it's there, not because he plans on doing it. And it makes him a very big threat to defenses. And he gashed, the Saints the first time around. There's no way around it. Can Rob Ryan figure out some wrinkles to try to slow Wilson down? Does he dedicate a spy to Wilson when he rolls outside the pocket, which can be dangerous to do, but effective if it's done the right way? Look for Curtis Lofton to have a big impact on this game, both in the running game and also containing Russell Wilson when he gets outside the pocket. And overall, I think this is going to be a very good game, especially early, because I don't think the Saints are going to go in there and make the same mistakes early that they did in Week 13. But I think eventually the punishment that physically that the Saints will incur on both sides of the ball by this rested Seahawks team, I think will win out in the end. And I look for this to be a Russell Wilson performance that will put him even more on the national map, sort of like we saw from Andrew Luck as well. And in this game, I like Seattle minus the 7.5 at home to win and advance to the conference championship. I just think the Saints had their great game last week, and I don't see them being able to run the ball as effectively, and I think that's really going to hurt them. They're going to get one-dimensional and really play into Seattle's hands. Guys, let me know what you think. Hit me up in the YouTube comments. Hit me up on Twitter as well. Guys, I'm previewing all the playoff games. We'll also getting into my NFL draft stuff. I think I have about 15 NFL draft-related videos up. So be sure to subscribe, check those out, and have a great day.